This video is for tutorial for Talend for using join between data. So firstly, to join the data, there should be a metadata that we will connect to the node. So I have already did the state code metadata, which is this one, which there is the state code and the state name. So we will be using this to connect with the main function. So first we will duplicate this map. So right click, duplicate, and then as I've already have lookup state, so I'll just put one step one. So we open it. SD5 input delimited and click OK. So I'll just align it with the tmap one. Then so next we need to connect the state codes with tmap. So right click, state codes, and select row and main, and link it with the tmap one. So let's look at the state codes configuration. So this is the text file that contain the state codes and state names. Then next we need to configure the map. So we can see here that there is already a row 2 table which is connected to the state codes file. So now as it states, so we will connect the column state in the row 1 table and then connect it to this table. So just drag it and we see that it was already connected, and then we will drag state name to the output table. So then we can see here that the state name will be added in the output table. Then apply. Okay. So first I will change my output table name, as the file was already. So I name it lookup. Lookup state. So the main table is the one with the one label cast, and then we can see that and the one that we want to see is the state column with where after we run the Talend, there will be another column called state name here that will state the state name, and there will. Okay, so let's run. So there's no error here, so it means that we succeed in joining state code to the main table. So now let's look at the output table, which is lookup state. So we can see here that the state code follow the state name, follow the state code, and there is some state code that does not the state name does not appear, as there was some error. We need to find it after this. So like the join make the state codes txt file join with the main table, and then it appears like this. Then next we will see what's wrong to make that there is some value of the state name that does not appear, but the state code was here, but the state name does not appear. So we will use the same work. So first we will look at the tmap component. So we can see here that there is an error notification, as there is a red mark there. So we can configure the error from here. So we can see here that the join model between the two tables, it was left out the join. So the left outer join includes all rows from the primary table, even if there is not a row in the lookup table with a matching value in the join column, which explains why some rows did not include the state name. So now we need to know why some lookup rows did not match. As we can see that there is the state code, but the state name does not appear. So in order to do that, we need to use inner join. So click at left outer join, and then click this 3 dot button, and then change it to inner join. So after that, we need to add a new table to catch rejects. So first we will add output table in the same tmap component. So we click here and type it as join failures and click OK. So there will be a new output table here, which is join failure. Then after that, we will look up at the setting of the in the tmap setting for the join failures table, and then click false in the value column, and then click this button with the 3 ellipse and change the value from false to true. So next we need to define the columns of the output table. So we will drag the last column and the state column from the row 1 table, this table, to the join failures table. So first is the last, we will drag it to this expression, and the statement to this. So now this table will hold the last name and state for rows that fail the inner join condition. So next we will apply and click OK. So next we need to add an output component to log the failures that we will see in for the whole execution. So we need to add a tlog row component. This I'll change it to tlog row. So we can see that it is logs errors, so it it will work to show the arrow for up. So next we will connect it. We connect from the T-map to tick-load row. Join failure, as the join failures table is in the T-map component, so it cannot be from the T-load row. So we will connect the join failures with the T-load row. So we can see that here that the join failures row correspond to the output table you added to the T-map component, which is this is 1 and this is 1. So next we will run the job. Oh wait, I'll change, I make it to another output file, lookup state 1. So we can see here that 100 rows were processed, of which 34 were rejected. From the console output, it is evident that the state codes in the rejected rows are all lowercase. They will not match the uppercase from the lookup file. So we can see here that all the state codes are in uppercase, and in the original table, which is cast table, the state codes wait, I'll also open the previous one with the so we can see here that this is the original table, the CA, CA and AK, CA, CA and AK here. This one is in lowercase, and so that's why it cannot match with the lookup file, which was the code was all in uppercase, so it cannot match. Yeah, there's actually CA in here, but it won't appear due to the lowercase of the state in the original table. So this is the one without the join failures, where the one without the state name also appear in here, but the one with the join failures one, we can see that all of the row without the state name was all rejected out of the table. How to make all of the value appear? So we need to build an expression to convert the state code in the original table into uppercase. So next we will still use the same components, all of this. So we will double click T-map. So this is the lookup table which contain the state code and state name. So first we will click row, then click the ellipse here. We will click the ellipse to open up the expression builder for the row 1.state to make an expression. So the expression was row 1 state, row 1.state dot 2. So as we want to change it to uppercase, so it to uppercase, string. So with that, the value of the state column will be converted to uppercase before it will be compared the lookup table again. So the join will work properly and all of the value will appear as there will be as the uppercase will match with each other instead of the lowercase being rejected. So we click OK, apply, OK, and we run the job. I'll change the output file to lookup state 2 and we run the job. So we can see here that there is no value rejected as the state codes are already matching between the customer file and the lookup table. So we will look at the output. We will look at the output table, which is lookup state 2. Yeah, so we can see here that all of the state code already has their state name compared to before where we did not have the join failure Xuan and the one with the join failure and the one where we changed the state code to uppercase. Then this is the final output of the join with the one expression where we change the state code in the table to uppercase. So at this point, as it was already fine, so we do not need more table. So we need to clean up the job by removing the T-log row component as it was already the final output was already fine without any reject value. So we right click the T-log row component and select delete. Then we will edit the T-map component. And the join failures one. So we will remove selected output table. Apply, OK. I'll try to run the output here without the T-log row. So it's because it was open. So run again. It run just fine without the T-log row component as there is already no rejected value in there. So that's all from me. Thank you for watching.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. So now I'm going to proceed with the next chapter, which is about filtering data. So basically in Talend, if you want to do a filter, you want to put in a filter function, you just have to play around with the tmap component. So now let's talk about how to put in one filter in your dataset. So let's look into our original dataset. So this is the dataset, our ori one. We have included everything in here. So now let's try to filter the data according to the states, okay, for CA only. So to do so, you just have to double click on the tmap. Okay, so once you are into this window to add in your filter formula. You just have to go to this button here. We call it as the expression filter button. When you just click on it, it will show this bracket here. So you just have to put in your formula, which is, because I just want to filter out CA, so just start with the CA equals to row 1 states. So you can see once you have written this thing, it will automatically show an orange arrow that links from the row 1 states here. So just click on OK. So let's try to run the whole thing to see the output. Let's have a view on our new output here. Okay, so you can see we just have the data that is about CA after doing the filtering. Okay, so basically you just have to play around with the T maps. If you want to do another filtering, you just change any formula used in here. For example, if I want to do something on the row 2, I want to filter from the row 2, maybe the state code. Once I've written this thing, you see the orange arrow just automatically link to the row 2. So just press OK and let's run the output again. Now this is the new output from the filter of the row 1 for CA. Okay, so it's basically different from what we did just now. So this is how we add in one filter in our data set. So what if we want to add multiple filtering job in our data? So let's look back to our previous data set. Okay, since in this data set we have a lot of states label with CA, AK, IL and so on. So what if we want to do a filter job to create 3 outputs with different filter label, which is accordingly to their states? For example, I want to do one filter which is related to state NY only, and another filter for AK Alaska, and another one for CA California. 3 outputs data. So to do so, you must always make sure you have 3 output component. Okay, and bear in mind you should always change the file name differently. So for my CA output, I will just put CA out and NY out, AK out. Okay, after you have done all this thing, just go back to the T map to add in your filter functions. As you can see, when you this is the current mapping situation. So as you can see now, the NY and AK for their column name is empty, so we just copy the same expression from the CA table and paste it to the NY and AK as well, just to make them look the same. And you can see for the state as well, NY AK is different from the CA states, so just copy and paste the same thing, same procedure. Okay, after you have done all this thing, okay, so since for the kept out, this is the filter formula I did previously, so I just copy the same thing I put into the NY and AK table. So just click on the expression filter button and paste the formula, and do remember to change the CA into their respective tables name, NY. And this one you must always change to AK. Okay, after you have done, just press OK. Now let's run our job and look at the output. So by right, there will be 3 new files created. Okay, so you can see we have 3 different output here: AK out, CA out, and NY out. Let's look through this data. So for AK, you can see it just show data set that have AK state, NY for the New York data filter, so it only filtered out the data that have NY states, and also for the CA out. Okay, so this is how we put in filter functions in Talend. So you just have to know how to use the T-map and also insert the formula you want. So that's all from me. Thanks.
Hello Doctor, I'm Xuan from Group 6, and now I'm going to proceed with using the context variable in Talend. Alright, so before we get into it, let me briefly talk about what is the context variable first. So actually, a job in the Talend is always run in a specific context. So the context variable is the variable that we can use in that job. Alright, so the goal of the context variable is actually used to specify the value that we're going to use by changing the context in the job that we are running. Alright, there's what context variable about is. So now let me proceed with the context variable by using it in the Talend. Alright, so let's go. Alright, so now we are in the Talend, and then over here I have the uppercase file which I have duplicated to become the context-uppercase. So we are going to use this job for this lab. Alright, so for using the context variable, so actually you can see that when we are going to click on this T file output delimited, so we are going to go for the context-uppercase. So over here, I already have one context variable name, output DRI, which means the output directory. So the type of which is the string, and then the component, the command is output directory. So over here, you can see that there's two different contexts, which is one with the value of one, the context is called default, and the other one context is called production. So each of these have two different value. So the first one will be the value which is the directory, and then it direct to the workspace. All right. So this is the directory to the where the Talend is located in the which lastly in the file name workspace. While the production one, it will actually locate into the file name called production. Alright, so first I'm going to run it. So we're going to run it in the default environment first, default context. Alright, I'm going to run it. So because over here you can see that actually I named the file with the context.output directory plus a capout.csv. So there should be a CSV file called capout in the directory, which is the workspace. Alright, so let's check it out. Alright, so yes, it's over here. You can say that it's in capout.csv in the directory of workspace. Alright, it's in it. So now I'm going to change it to the different context. Alright, by using different context environment. So I'm going to use the production. Alright, so if I use production, right, so the value, the production with the value is the directory, which the value which is directory should be another one folder which is called production. So since there's no production file in this workspace, right, so it's supposed to be automatically create a file called production and then put the CSV in it. All right, so now I'm going to run it again. All right, so let's show the file. All right, there's a file name called production, and then in it there's a folder called capout. All right, so that's how it works. All right, so this can be, all right, this is how we're playing with the context variable in Talend. So But by using this way, we can only change the context variable or add the context variable one by one for each job. Alright, so the way we add the context variable is by using over here. Alright, we can click on the plus icon over here to add the context variable. So there's a new one, new two. Alright, so that's how we add the context variable. So I'm going to delete it. And then the way we add the context environment is over here. So we add it. So if you want to create a new one, you can click on new. Alright, so back to the topic I talked before. So by using this method, we can only add it one by one. So what if we want to have a context variable that we can be applied to all the jobs in our repository? So that in that way, we are going to use this. We are going to go for the context in repository. So as I already created it, but I'm going to click on it to show the setting of it. Alright, so as we can see over here, I already named it as the location context variable and the purpose and the description of it. So I click on next. So I already named it, name one of the context variable as the repo output DRI, repo output directory. And then with the directory of, the first one will be default value. The context value will be same as before. It will be located into a folder which is named as workspace. Right. For the production with the context value, the directory will be the value of the directory will be redirected to a workspace, but this time we change it to a new file which is called new-production. Alright. So after this, after we have set up and then add all the context that we want, and also you can click this plus icon over here to add the context environment. So I already added it, production. Alright, so just click OK. Alright, so click on finish. Alright, so after finish, we are going to drag this over here and then put it. Alright, so drag it into the job and then put it. So it will be shown over here, the number 2 and number 3 variable is actually from the context group. So over here you can see that we have the variable name, repo output directory, then all those settings, the value difference, which is, and then the production value with the context value, new production. So I'm going to run it, but before run it, we are going to change it. Alright, because we are going to use the context group, right? So we are not going to use the output because this one is for this job. We are going to change the name to repo output directory. So okay, so now we are going to use for the default first. Alright, why don't we change the name of the file to, alright, so name it as a new dash, so we can see the difference. Alright, so now I'm going to run it. Alright, so now there should be a new CSV with the name new in front of it. So yeah, it's over here. So in the folder of workspace, we have a CSV name new dash cap out. Alright, so that's it. So now I'm going to run it in production. So for the production context environment, so over here you can see that we are going to go for a new folder called new-production. So because there's no this kind of folder in the workspace, so it should be also automatic create the new folder which name new production. Alright, so I'm going to run it again. Alright, so yes, it's over here. You can see that there's a new folder named as new production. So click on it, it's a CSV name as new-cap out. Alright, so that's how that's how we are going to play with the context variable in the Talend. So that's the way we do it. So just remember that for the context, we can always remember that there will be two different variables or many different context variables in it. So it depends on which context environment that we are going to use for it. Alright, that's all from me.
Good day, my name is Chua Hun Ho, and I'm here to present about Lesson 7 and Lesson 8. So first of all, let me go to Lesson 7 first. So in this Lesson 7, it's basically to create a generic schema and then apply it in our job. So first thing first, we go to here, our talents, And then under the node metadata, we will see generate schema, and then we create a schema name as shop metadata. So let me show you the example here. So under the schema, we have four important elements. The first one is shop name, the second one is customer ID, the third one is product ID, and then the last one is quantity. So for the shop name, we set the type as a string and then the length as 10. Then we click on finish. And then we go to this job design, and then we create a folder named as self, and then we create a job named as self file pre, and here is the job. So for this one, we have to generate 3 sales data found for each shop. So here we got 3 shops, so we go to the first shop first, and then here we use T row generator. I show you the settings, and then here we preset the name of the shop name as a shop 1, and then we use numeric random functions to generate the data for customer ID, product ID, and also quantity. The maximum values for customer ID and quantity is 100, whereas for product ID is 80. So the number of rows that we want to generate is 5,000, and click on OK. So remember to set the repository here, the schema. The schema is repository, and we read from the generic schema that we have created just now, and then we link it to the output file, T file output limited here, and then save it to our local disk D. Local disk C. And then we copy and paste for shop 2 and shop 3. But remember to rename the shop name to shop 2, and the remaining elements is just keep it the same. And then for the file output file, also have to rename it as a shop2.out, and same thing have to do for our shop 3 also. So rename here shop name, and then also rename the output file shop3.out. And then after we have created this, then we go to file delimited, and then we create a file name as a retail customer. And then here you can see that this is our schema for customer metadata. So here remember to change the register time into year, month, date, hour, minute, seconds, and also the X, capital X here. And then we click on finish. And then we will do the same thing for the retail data, but then I think this one no need to change the register time, because it only has ID and also product, and make sure both of them make sure the ID is length is 3 and then the product name is 10. Then click on finish. So remember to run the job. Yes, and then we can go to our file, then check for here. Then open with Notepad. Then here you can see that the row has generated. The rows are generated with the name and also the customer ID, the product ID, and also the quantity. So that's all for lesson 7. Okay, so for lesson 8, we are going to working with database. But first thing first, we have to open our XAMPP, and then start for Aperture and also MySQL. so that we can connect to our database and click admin. Then we will go to PHP My Admin. And then after you have entered the website, you click on New Database here. And then just need the database name as training. So after that, you just go back here, Talent. Here under the node metadata, we got a DB connections. So we just create a connection, and this is my connection. So here my DB connection name is local MySQL. Then click on next. So here already changed to context, but never mind. I'll show you the left one. So basically you will see something like this. So our DB type set as MySQL, and then the DB versions use MySQL 5, and then we just put login as root, and then our password, the server name is localhost, the port is 3306. If you're not sure about your port, you can go to them, and then here we show you the port 3306. Then the database we want to connect is training. So after you have set details in your DB connections, then you click on test connection. So here I'm going to show you. So it will be connection successful. If you cannot connect with the database, maybe is the password of your localhost or your root is wrong. So for my case, I didn't have set any password, so I just put the password as a blank. Okay, and then after you have test the connections, the connection is successful, then you just export as the context. So here I share with you this. So basically you will enter the interface like this, and then just making sure all the things is setting like this and all the things is correct. Then you have to finalize your database, so it will be something like this. Then you click on finish. Okay, so next, our database now is just an empty database, so we have to create some table into that database. So we create a job under the South folder. Then this is my job. Okay, and then center bit. Okay, then here for this component create table, then you will see the things will be something different now. Okay, since my version is already set up everything and then run successfully, then I will show you the lab instruction here. So basically you have to set the create table link to our database, and then you have to choose the property type as repository, and then link it to the database local MySQL, and then click on yes, and then specify the database. And then for the schema, we use a retail customer. So and then rename the table as a retail customer. So after you have done this, then we go to create an input file. So the table now is just a empty table. Yeah, just an empty table. We need the details. So we read the file, set the property type and also schema as a repository, and then read from the file here. Yeah, for this one, we want to do is for customer table, so we read from retail customer. So basically it's just these two things. Then after you have done the setting for retail customer, you just link the T create tables, link use the trigger, and then on components okay. Okay, component okay, then link to retail customer. Then now we want to show the output in our database. Then after you have linked this create table and also the retail customer together, so we have table with details now. So the last thing is we need to make this table into our database. So we put a DB output to see our table whether it is create successfully or not. So we put it, then we click on this row and then man. So we link it to our database and then run the job. After you have run the job, you will see this table will be occur in your database. So you click on the tables, you will see this is the details under the tables. So it means that you have successfully did the job. So same thing will be done for the product. So it just repeat the things. Create table for the product. So name as retail product, and then here drop the table if it is exists, and then create a new one. So here we read our file from product metadata. So basically it's read from here, product metadata, the file deleted retail product. Then the same thing here, we set a database output, DB output for our tables. So after you run the job, you will see something like this. You will see a retail product tables here. So here got the products, and here got 1 to 50 products, and also is ID in our database now. So after you run the job, you will see something like this warning here, and then you have to go to this schema and then edit the schema. And then because the database type we haven't set, we just set the type for the columns in our talents only. We haven't set on the side of database, so we need to set it. Use our talents and then just click on this button, reset data type buttons, and then everything will be set, and then you press OK. So now the wording has disappeared. So after you have created a table for our customer and also the products in our database, so next we want to put the details for the shop 1, shop 2, and then shop 3 into our database. So the same thing here, we have to create a table first. Then here the table name is shop metadata, and then the schema used is shop metadata also. And then we go to shop 1. This shop 1 is the output from our lesson 7. So you just read the file by using the t file input delimited. After that, remember to set the schema as a generate schema here, and then read the path of the output for lesson 7. So the shop1.out, and then you link it with our database. So db output here, you link it, and then name the table as a cell stitching, something like this. Then for this one also under the cell stitching, because we want to see the cells from these 3 shops. So after you have done, okay, remember for this one, the relationship between create tables and also shop 1 is on component OK, whereas for the others, shop 1 to shop 3, we use on subjob OK, because we have already create a connection with our create table, so other just concat it together. And then after you have run the program, and then you see something like this. Okay. So in my case just now, because I have already changed the things, the table name, so it may be a bit confused for the talents. So we need to assign the column. So they will automatically take the columns of the previous component. Okay. So after you have run the job here, you will see something like cell stitching table here. So here you can see details in the cell stitching. So you can see here got shop 1, and then the customer ID, product ID, and also quantity. So we want to check for our shop 3, then we just put a SQL query to run. So here we can check, oh, so our shop tree also exists in this table. So go back to our talent, and then we create a job named as retail sales, and then we want to read from the database, so we just put a DB input, and then we name as sales data in, and then link it to our tables, and we want the table sales fetching. So, and then for our schema, we use repository from our generic schema. And after that, if you can't see the query, then you just click on guest query. So basically do the same thing for the product and also the customer data. So here is the component for product data, and here is the customer data in. Okay. And then we use a Tmap to connect all of these data together. So let us check Tmap the setting. So you can see over here. So for the product table, we have set the Joe model into inner Joe, same as the customer table. We also set it as an inner join. Here we link to the customer names, link to here. Okay. So this is the first table that we will create for combined sales, combined from three source here, the first source, and then second and third. So the first one, sales, will be man, the other two will be lookout. So after that, link our combined sales to the DB output, and then name the table as total sales. So we will know the total sales from in our database. So here we got the result for the combined sales, reject, and also the produce sales and customer sales, because we have set different tables, different output tables for our Tmap. So here basically we can see which sub field is being rejected and cannot combine successfully, then it will come to here. So for our product sales and also customer sales, we have set it to read, so we will note the product sales is how much, and also the customer will buy how many things. Then here, so in our tables we'll have a total sales. So here we can see that shop one got quantity from which customer, and then this customer has buy which product. So the total sales basically will like this. So we go to the last page of it. So it will combine from our shop, the generic schema, and also from the product and also the customer. Close it. You can see this output. So basically we have run the job, and then there will be a table named as total sales in our database, and also an output file named as reject, so we can check which column, which rows of data is being rejected and not entering into our database. And then here we can see the product sales, and then also the customer sales. So from here we have join and save it into our zip file for the customer sales and also the product sales out.xml. We have zipped it together, under the name sales out. So here we check out. Okay, you will see something like this. So the name, customer name, quantity, all view, save in this XML. So same thing for the product sales. product and also the quantity. Then for this output file, let me check. We open with Notepad, and then here we can see the rows of data are being rejected here. So remember, if you want to cache out the inner join reject, so you have to set the table here as true, the value true. So basically that's all for lesson 8. So wish you have a good day and thank you for listening.